2013, we've got a nice lineup of products. We've updated just about all of our products and added a lot of neat features, a lot of reliability, a lot of improvements.
What would you say the main difference on the new Phoenix line is over the old one?
The circuitry is revised on the control side, so there's definitely some new circuitry there. Again, that gives us better information on what's going on in the controller, and we can make it work better and make it work through difficulties that might have caused problems in the past. Along with that, we've also added more capacitance, which helps overall, and we've also added what we're calling the AUX line, the auxiliary line. And what that does is it gives you a second input or output to the receiver. And so the helicopter guys are the ones, the main beneficiaries of that, and they can use it as real-time gain setting. So if they want to adjust their gains, they can do that in flight, and in governor mode, they can adjust their gains in flight. And also, they can use it as an RPM output if their flight control system, their 3-axis V-bar is one of the brands, obviously. Their flight control system has such an input. We can use the fourth wire as an RPM sensor and feed that into the flight control system. The airplane guys can use it as a safety arm lock is what we're calling it, and what that does is it allows them to either use the receiver channel or a separate switch to prevent the controller from arming, which is always handy to have.
Indeed. Motors, I see as well. Vertigo?
Vertigo is the brand name that we're going with, and we've been making car motors for a long time, hundreds of thousands of motors now. Castle's probably the biggest name in RC car motors, and we've been looking at the airplane heli power market for a long time, and we've always had the corporate philosophy that we want to bring a product that has value, that has performance, that performs very, very well. We're not going to bring a mediocre product to market. And so that's why it's taken us a good long time to finally come out with our brand of Outrunners. There's a number of mechanical differences. A lot of attention is paid to helping the motor run true and keeping it balanced. The shaft is 8 millimeters throughout the interior of the motor, where a lot of companies don't do that. That allows us to use larger bearings and better bearings. The electrical, almost in electronics, but the electrical side of the motor is also really well designed. There's a lot of attention paid to detail, high quality materials, all things that add up and that other manufacturers choose to compromise on in order for price. So the end result is that Castle's motor is going to be slightly more expensive, but it's going to outperform anything else on the market.
Yeah, I know you have some efficiency numbers that are quite high. Is that correct?
They are. Unfortunately, each one's slightly different, but they're in the high 80s. Is a pretty good way to express it. And if you were to look at a dyno chart of the motors, you'll see that efficiency is relatively flat. So it goes across the entire power output of the motor. It's not just a big peak that we're calling out as our efficiency. It's a nice, gentle curve. And what that means is that when you're really pulling the power, these motors are still very efficient. And when you're really throwing the collective around, you want to produce torque, not heat.
Can you try and explain in layman terms how the efficiency is working for the pilot? Okay,
efficiency is basically a measure of how much work a motor produces for a given input of power. So if you, and let's just use round numbers, 100 watts. All these motors are way beyond 100 watts, but 100 watts. If you're 80% efficient, that means you're going to produce 80% work and 20% heat. 100 watts, that means 80 watts of work and 20 watts of heat. Go grab a soldering iron or a light bulb, and you'll see how much heat 20 watts can generate. That's a lot of heat. And the way that comes into play is that a motor, in fact all electronics, are limited by how much heat they can dissipate. You don't want things to overheat. When they overheat, bad things happen. So say a motor has a given amount of heat that it can radiate off, cooling, that it can accomplish. If with our 100-watt example, we were to say a motor can radiate off 20 watts of heat. Okay, after it generates more than 20 watts of heat, it will overheat. So if your motor is 80% efficient and you feed it 100 watts of electricity, you're creating 80 watts of work and 20 watts of heat. That's the maximum heat that it can dissipate. So you're only able to really run 100 watts into that motor. Now, if your motor is 90% efficient, it's a 10% efficiency jump. You're creating 90 watts of work and 10 watts of heat. Wow. But we still have the ability to radiate off 20 watts of heat. That means you can honestly double the power of the motor. You can run it at 200 watts to generate that same 20 watt heat budget. So the motor, by being 10% more efficient, is actually twice as powerful.
I know this is just the first day of the show, but what are your impressions so far of the Nuremberg Toy Fair?
Times are changing. There's new players here. Old guard is moving in different directions. So there's definitely a change in the air. As we've all seen, the global economy is it's a tough place to survive, really. And so the ones that are here are stronger. Those that have survived to this point are stronger. And that's one of the main things. The other thing that we see is that if you have a good product, people will come to you and will seek you out. And that holds true for many of the brands here. And I'm going to include our product in that list.